What do you mean no one likes me?
This is something you should have gotten used to a long time ago.
A long time ago. Hey, everybody, apparently no one likes me.
And yet
I'm okay with it.
He says it as though it's news to anybody in the room. Hey, everybody, welcome to PDQ A.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our excuse for not having to plan too much for a webcast. But since we always have
Lots of questions,
we end up leaving a lot of questions on the table, and a lot of it, obviously, for the sake of time. This is a good time to just if you have your PDQ related questions, or if you want to take a stab at a non PDQ related question, go for it.
Yeah, throw down, guys.
If it'll get in there,
We'll keep answering as long as you keep asking.
There you go.
Rock on. Let's go ahead and do it. I guess I don't. And this one, I don't have to say. Do we have a question?
Nope.
Dear Shane and Lex, I have set up an auto deployment for Windows monthly rollup and security-only patches for all my workstations. How do I view all those successfully patched workstations? Is there a report to view it? It's required by our external auditors. Sincerely, Jeffrey O.
Jeff O, how you doing, man?
Well, we don't have okay, the answer is you can get this information, but we don't have a report. We have a collection. But the collection you can easily turn into a report.
Definitely.
So,
now, the other thing I'm wondering, we can also send a summary of the deployment, right? At the end.
Yeah,
of the deployment.
you can send summaries. You can send summaries of deployments, but that's, when you deploy, you've got machines that might not be part of that deployment.
That's a good point.
So there's a number of ways that you can do this, but probably the easiest is to go to the collection library, and let's go down to Windows, close the applications here, collapse that. We'll go to Windows updates here. Now, I'm not sure if. Let's just say you're talking about Windows 10. Here we're looking at 1703. Was it the successful ones? Is that what it was?
Or you just want to? Okay.
Yeah, it looks like we haven't deployed those. So,
well, now
in our lab here we haven't deployed those. So we're going to go ahead and you can select a collection, right? And in the report menu, there's a new report. You'll see a report from a collection. Mm-hmm. Now, the important thing about this is you can go back and forth from a basic report to a collection or a collection to a report, and it copies those filters.
Filters, yeah. You'll need to still pick out what you want to see in the report, but it is filtering.
Yeah, when you do this from a collection, it will just the display. It will only display the computer name, mm-hmm. And you could add other columns that you want to see. But the cool thing is the filters. As you can see right there, now in this new report, the filters are there. Mm-hmm. So if we want to come over here maybe and just add...
Is that OS?
Yeah.
An OS version?
Mm-hmm. So we'll stick with the computer, pardon me, and we'll come on down to like OS. We'll go OS there. There's the OS is the short name. The mm-hmm. OS name is the full name.
Yeah.
So we'll just do OS, and then we'll add an OS version. Or actually, we'll do the OS version is fine. Mm-hmm. Well, there's also the service pack. We can do that one. It's this SP/release that might help.
There we go.
So we'll hit save to that, run that report, and there you go. So the answer is go to the collection library, grab whatever. In this case, you'd probably mm-hmm. want to go to the latest. If you wanted to look at the successful, go to the one that has the word latest in the collection for whatever OS you're talking about. And
if you want to automate it, attach that to auto reports.
Yeah, so the auto reports also gives you extra functionality so that you're not having to do this every single time for those auditors. You can just say I want to see all the computers every Monday or every
once
day,
a month, or
whatever.
Yeah.
You set the schedule and have that report emailed to somebody in a PDF format or an Excel format, etc.
Or you can just put it on a file share.
But I would recommend doing the report from collections because mm-hmm. you have those collections that are out there. Cool? I hope that answered the question.
Very cool.
And then for our lab machines that don't mean anything as far as functionality to this company, we should get these updated.
Yeah.
Dearest Shane and Lex, I want to prevent my AV and firewall solution from flagging PDQ when applications are deployed. What applications and paths do I need to whitelist along with ports? Thanks in advance, Daryl S.
Hey, Daryl. We'd recommend, it's a very good question, and I think we still have an under the hood that KB, maybe somebody, if Brig is watching or somebody could
throw that
pipe in on
there,
that. Yeah,
we'll get that.
But when we manage any computer, I'm just going to go to, let's come on down. Now it's going to choose. We'll go to Evil Rick. This is an inventory. I'm going to go down to shares. This is just me. This is just a quick way of doing this. But I'm going to click on the admin dollar. Notice any share that is a directory, you should see a link here. Admin dollar is the Windows directory on the target computer. That's how we manage it. It's using the file and printer sharing. Under admin arsenal.
I almost clicked in the right place.
Yeah, you did. Under admin arsenal, we recommend that you just say admin arsenal if you can. In deploy, it's PDQ deploy runner. And then in inventory, it's inventory scanner, but there's also an inventory remote command. So
To catch it all,
admin arsenal. Just Windows admin arsenal. And then when you're doing the deploy runner is very important. Let me just do a quick deployment to Evil Rick so you can see what kind of happens underneath here. We'll do something that takes a little while. Let's do Adobe Reader DC here.
Evil Rick.
While you guys are doing that, just we got a couple links up in the chat for you guys with more information about this.
Excellent.
Okay. So
We'll get that on the bonus content.
when we
Oh, you see that right there, guys? Service.
So
FYI, that chat's not going to be here when people watch after the fact. So.
Thank you. When a computer starts a deployment, notice now a new directory. This one is service-1. If there happens to be multiple deployments from different consoles, you'll see
2 and then 3.
service 2, etc. But this is where those install files go, and that's why your AV is flagging those, saying, "Hey, what's going on?" If you can whitelist admin arsenal under Windows, that's probably the best thing.
Yeah.
Some people will go in there and try to go deeper and say service-1, service-2, service-3, just for in the event that, but that's somewhat dynamic, you know. So sometimes a service-1 may not be properly cleaned up, and so we'll just start using 2.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what happens under the hood, and that's what I'd recommend. As far as ports, it's the same ports that are used by
P4 and
well, it's the same
file and print sharing.
Yeah, file and print sharing that are used, and you can find those on not only on what's under the hood, but in the there's a KB on firewall ports and exceptions, and you'll see all those listed there.
What else we got?
Dearest Shane and Lex.
Quit saying dearest.
Well, he means it, though. I'm new to PDQ. Is there a community knowledge base where peeps share their uninstall commands, e.g. a thread for uninstalling Oracle On Demand CRM to replace with Oracle Salesforce? Thank you, James M.
Hey, James, and the fact that he's new to PDQ, I really doubt he said dearest. I'm going to go back to that one, Kelford. All right. Hey, James, welcome. We have a forum. A community, kind of a community. We have a knowledge base, which is what we provide, but then we also have a forum, and you guys can throw that link out there. But that's where you can ask questions or offer solutions, and so you'll see those out there in that forum. But seriously, ask a question, and you'll usually get a response or two from somebody, especially when you're saying, "Hey, here's an application that I need to install. Has anybody done something like this?" So.
Community's great. They provide a lot of support there.
Yeah, they really do. And then there's different places around the web. You know, the Google Foo will help with that. But yeah, I would definitely recommend going out to our forums. And anytime you post a forum question, then you're automatically or by default you're subscribed to that question. So you'll get emails when answers are proffered or suggestions are made, or when Lex just starts typing randomly.
That only happened once. Or twice.
No, you only gave the right answer once.
Well, I represent that statement. Or resent that statement.
Noted.
Hey, Shane and Lex.
Hey.
I have found that the uninstall from the application list seems to not remove the program a lot of the time. So I would wind up using RDC and going to add remove programs. Is there any process you suggest when it doesn't seem to work in PDQ? Thanks. Shaka call. S.
Yeah.
Bad song reference.
When we have an ex-DJ that works here.
Yeah. Silent parameters.
Yeah, in the pre-show, Katie came and did a support minute where she kind of talked about. She likes to talk about a few things that questions that come up in support that week. This is kind of a gotcha. When you go to do the uninstall, it's very important. So she mentioned like 7-zips as an example. if you have something especially that's not installed from an MSI, you hit uninstall, you do need to specify the silent parameter.
And reason being is this is going to run in the background, okay, and the end user's not going to see it. You're running it with the credentials that's provided by inventory, and so you don't want it asking any questions. So you absolutely have to have.
And even if, when we say it needs to run silently, this actually truly runs silent. Even if you don't supply the silent parameters, it will run expecting questions to be answered, but the user will never see it because it's being spawned as a non-interactive service. So literally, it will just hang there, or sometimes it'll just exit immediately, and no application will be removed.
Yeah.
So in the case of 7-zip, an uninstall / uppercase S, I believe, and these vary per program. That's kind of why we don't throw it in there. If it's an MSI, if it was installed from an MSI exec,
that's a slam dunk.
yeah, for us, we know, okay, we can make this silent by doing a QN and changing the /i to a /x, which means uninstall and uninstall silently. But when it comes to an exe, that's the problem. So here we've just uninstalled 7-zip. It's running a scan.
Now,
So 7-zip should be removed here.
Where you find those, I would just Google silently uninstall 7-zip, silently uninstall. And then usually you're going to be able to find those parameters from the vendor.
That's probably what's happening, Shakal. Notice that 7-zip is now gone. So it is very important that you have the proper silent parameters.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you just have to go right to the vendor to get those.
Hey, dudes. I might be jumping the gun, but do you have any further details on PDQ Enterprise SL? We currently run Deploy and Inventory Enterprise, and as we gain more admins, we keep needing to buy additional licenses. An unlimited approach is a welcome option. Thanks, Ian S.
Lex, you want to
Ian?
take this one?
Yeah. Ian, so Enterprise SL. Again, you call it, unlimited licensing. This is a single server install instance, okay? You're running central server, but you want to have unlimited access for either admins or if you want to write your own applications, like your own web store, where you pre-approve things and people can click them and get them.
Or you just have maybe managers that want to look at reporting features, and that's
There you go. And so that option's, it's $15,000 for the install, and contact me and I'll help you out with that, man.
And that's per server.
Yep.
So thank you for bringing that up. Obviously we do not license per target. And
No.
I know that a lot of you are very, very pleased with that, but we do license per administrator or per user of the product. So as you're getting more administrators, more people that need it, there comes a point where you might want that site license.
Absolutely.
All right. That's what the SL stands for. Or is it server license?
Server license,
Is it
yeah.
SSL?
Server license.
It's server site license.
Dear Shane and Lex, I've been having more and more computers return a scan status of exceeded timeout for completion. Some of them will return if I scan them a second time, but I don't want to spend time going through and manually scanning computers. I have the timeout set to 2 minutes. What would you recommend for a proper timeout? Sincerely, Dougie Fresh, K.
Hey, Doug. 2 minutes does seem to be
That's aggressive.
a little on the low side, especially since some of these scanners can take a while. Particularly, number one, if you're the scanner that looks for Windows shares that hits a file share that has a lot of shared directories, it could take a while. There's a lot of WMI calls in there. Sometimes the hot fixes might take a little while. So yes, what I would recommend is that you increase that from 2 minutes. For those who are watching, you can go
Options, preferences.
and then under performance, there is a computer scan timeout. We've got ours set here at 10 minutes. And this is not, when you scan like 30 machines, this is not 10 minutes for all 30. This is 10 minutes for each of those 30.
Once the instance starts, the
Yes, the
clock starts
timeout
ticking.
is per target.
Yeah.
Not per, I want to scan the entire organization and I have to do it within 10 minutes. No, it's
And
per target.
It doesn't wait the full 10 minutes. If it's done in 4 minutes, it moves on to the next one. So,
But 2 minutes does seem to be a little on the aggressive side, and I would increase that. If you don't want to go full 10, pop it to 4. You'll see you'll at least see
more
yeah.
of those making it. So,
That's what I would recommend.
definitely.
Shane and Lex, if we have workstations built from a base image, would I need to apply every Windows monthly update or just the current month? Sincerely, Christopher N.
According to the documentation from Microsoft,
Did you just according to the
yes,
documentation?
because we
Okay.
don't control that.
No, I just like the way you did that.
Yeah.
According to the document. All right.
It is supposed to be cumulative.
Yeah.
The things that are not cumulative are the security only for
Yeah.
Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. The security onlys are not cumulative, so if you're doing the security only route, yeah, you are going to have to, you have your base image set for July, and it has all those patches up through July, but then August and September, you're going to need to apply those security only
Yeah.
patches. But if you're using the cumulative, it is supposed, cumulative does include security only. And
The security roll-ups.
yes, it's supposed to be. It is supposed to be cumulative. So just the last one, and you can notice those cumulatives get every
Progressively
month they're bigger in
bigger.
size. Yeah, if you all of a sudden see them get significantly smaller, that would call into question just how cumulative is this?
Chris has got this smile over there. It's
Yeah, something you want to see? We have
Well,
Chris
man.
on phone a friend over here.
Yeah, so it's confusing wording, just so you know, like kind of Shane was mentioning with the Windows 7, Windows 8, 1 patches that are out there. The roll-up patches are the equivalent of the cumulative in Windows 10. So be aware that when we say cumulative, we mean roll-up when regarding to Windows 7, Windows 8.1. So
cool.
Thank you.
Well noted, Chris.
So yeah, it just kind of depends on on what you're applying.
Yeah.
You have to call that out. And security only, I would go ahead and remove that question for a quick second. I'll just say, so people who may not know what we're talking about, I'm going to go to the package library, and we'll actually go to categories. Under categories, there's a Windows updates, and you'll see most of these updates are like the Win 10 and the different build of them. If you look down at Windows 7, there's the monthly roll-up, and then there's the security-only update. There's also the previews, but security-only update, if you're doing that, that's not cumulative. This is what we're talking about. The monthly roll-up is, and that includes that month's and previous month's security patches. All right, go back.
Queridos Shane y Lex, what are the best practices to have visibility of our laptops with PDQ Inventory? My problem is that if I connect a laptop through Ethernet, DHCP gives one IP from a certain range, and if I connect through Wi-Fi, it's another range and VLAN. Also, our offices have different IP ranges, and laptops usually change IPs within a short period of time. Thank you, Federico D.
Hey, Federico. This is largely due to DNS working in conjunction with DHCP. So we have kind of a workaround. I would really recommend that you talk to whoever handles DNS and see if you can't nail this down a little bit. But in both of the programs, you can go to the preferences.
I'm going to let you drag me. I use the mouse. Ah!
All right. Let's see. We're in deploy here, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Yeah, where are we? Quit touching my stuff.
Performs. See, I derailed his train. Touch the mouse. Boom.
Yeah,
He is.
right.
Can't even. Yeah.
Okay, so in the
Performance.
performance, this is going to be a different place in inventory. In performance, test multiple addresses in name resolution. This is the. We do recommend that you see if you can't talk to the powers that be, Federico, and nail down your DNS. But
This will help.
Yeah, this will help because without this checked, what we do, what PDQ Deploy does, and what PDQ Inventory will do, it'll say, "Hey, go out to this computer called Simple Rick," and it will ask DNS, "What's the IP address?" And if it returns a record, "Hey, here's this IP address," it will attempt to contact that. If it doesn't, it will think, "Okay, it's offline." It sounds like you're going to have a window of time where you've got multiple records. So what this does, when you say test multiple addresses, the first record will still be tested. If it's offline and there's another record, we'll go to that record. We will check to see every address that's returned by DNS until all the addresses are either exhausted or it comes back.
answers, yeah.
It answers as online. So in your case, I'd recommend checking that. Now for inventory, we'll go here to preferences, and network. So it was in performance under deploy, but network here, and test multiple addresses and name resolution. So that's what I would recommend for you.
That should help you out.
Yep.
Dear Shane and Lex, I have a site-to-site VPN going to a job site. The machines at the site show basic info, IP and OS, but nothing more. They get GP updates and DNS seems fine, even though I bet you will say it's DNS. I have yelled at the computers, shaken the computers, and blamed everyone but me for this issue. Please help me, PDQ One Kenobi. Thanks, Chris C.
It sounds like you've got ICMP is working fine, but you on these computers on this VPN, you're not allowing. It sounds like you're not allowing file and print sharing. Basically, can you get to the admin dollar share?
Yeah.
So I would recommend looking at that. That's most likely what it is. So you've got some communication going back and forth enough so that
You know it's there.
we know it's there, we can see it, but we just can't scan it. Chances are that's what it is.
In which case, again, look at your file and print sharing on your VPN. Allow that through the VPN. and
One thing you
should
can
be
do, highlight a computer, go to Help, and open Remote Repair. And this is just it's a fairly old utility that we've had since the beginning of time. But we'll just hit Analyze, and what this will do is actually go out and see if it can access the admin dollar share, create a service, etc. The things that happen when you either scan or deploy to a computer, chances are those are going to fail, or one or more of those will fail. And you just have to, even if it's on a VPN, if you want to manage from PDQ, you need to have the file and printer sharing ports opened. I will wager that's what it is.
Oh, great, Shane and Lex. Our location has many devices that are only connected wirelessly, and because of our environment, PDQ cannot see them. During a previous recording, an agent was mentioned. Is an agent in the works, and if so, can you give us any specifics? Thanks, Brian S.
Yes and no.
Yeah, so an agent is in the works, but we were hesitant to give the code is actually being written, but we're hesitant to give the specifics, just honestly because things happen.
Yeah.
You can translate the word things to another word if you want, but things happen, and we just don't want. Yeah, that's the fact that I called that out should
That was
show that I'm
impressive.
cognizant
Yeah.
that we're live and that I'm actually speaking to
Just wanna make
somebody.
I'm sure everyone else knows that. That's the reason why we say
JJ,
things
if you
on
walk
this.
by my office and you just hear me in there talking by myself,
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah. I'm well aware. But no one watching this show has ever heard that come from your mouth yet.
yes.
Generally,
I've got my finger on the red button over here.
If there was the beep
case.
thing, you walk past Shane's office, be like, blah, beep,
Yeah.
beep, beep, beep,
Yeah.
beep. Oh yeah, hey Lex, how you doing? Beep. Yeah.
That's me. Anyway,
True artist.
we are working on it, and just I will state this, that it is going to be optional. All right. We are not going to force anybody to use it, but there's some functionality that we do need an agent, a persistent agent, that to get some functionality. But that functionality is going to be coming in steps. So once we get the agent out there, doesn't mean you'll be able to have all that functionality, but we will start throwing new features out there. But it is a pretty big undertaking because of the infrastructure that
It's a journey, not a destination, guys.
Yeah, the framework that we built was an on-demand agent, and we've seen some legitimate need for one, but we also realize and recognize that so many of you do not want an agent. That's why it will be optional.
Yep.
Entirely.
Dear Shane and Lex, what is the optimal physical setup for deploy and inventory to encourage the programs to load faster? I have a decent PC that used to be able to load quickly, but now both programs take more than 5 minutes to load. Thanks, Mary M.
Hi, Mary. That is too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
I think it's the nut behind the keyboard.
Is that you?
I'm just kidding.
You've been
Mary,
working on our computer?
there are a few things that definitely you'll see performance increases. Obviously, CPU, RAM, but the thing we've noticed lately, if you get a nice fast drive like an SSD, the I/O back and forth, the increase there, you will start noticing performance increases.
Let me, Mary, a lot of this does depend on how many targets that you have.
That is a good point.
The fact that you're saying that deploy takes as long, it's usually inventory, but if you have a lot of computers out there, a couple of things I would look at. Under deploy, we'll go into deploy preferences. Let's see.
Database.
Well, before we do database,
No?
yeah. I'm going to click on deployments here. where it says cleanup, delete finished deployments after X days. If you have that set to 0 or a very high number, obviously those deployments are being stored,
Retained
and that just
longer.
these are histories of deployments that honestly you may never need. Now there might be some policies, internal policies or corporate policies that you have to adhere to, and just keep in mind that I would recommend that you keep that manageable. You know, we have a default of 30 days, but if you keep that to 0, so it's there forever, you're only going to be making your database slower over time.
Yeah.
And so consider purging that a little bit by setting a reasonable value there. That's one way. Now, did you want to mention something in database?
Just optimizing your database is always a good thing to do on a regular basis. You know, maybe once a month, go out there and just optimize. There's nothing wrong with
when you
tuning it up.
optimize the database. That will, if you have any deployments or scans
point.
going on at that time, it will abort them. So if you do optimize your database, we would recommend that you do that, obviously, at an appropriate time.
While you're not deploying.
But we do have a lot of updates that come out fairly frequently. So I know quite a few customers that they don't really optimize because within a month or two they will have a new update. When you perform an update and a new upgrade to PDQ Deploy or Inventory, we automatically optimize the database at that point. And the optimize is really just a SQLite vacuum statement that takes data that was marked as for deletion and just frees that
Cleans
up.
it, yep.
So that will help out. Now in inventory, don't want to belabor this. There's actually kind of a best practices webcast or two out there.
Yeah.
We cover this. Check your interval under preferences in PDQ Inventory under network. Check your auto heartbeat. If you have a lot of computers, the default value is 300 seconds. That means that we have it set to the lowest value on this instance of 120 seconds. This means that in our case, every 120 seconds, all the computers in this database, we send a ping to them. If you have thousands and thousands of computers, this is definitely going to hamper your performance because it won't have time to ping all those computers.
Finish before it starts again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to be in this endless loop of pinging. So you have 6,000 computers. Maybe jump that up to 600 seconds or 500 seconds. Just so you know, each heartbeat or ping goes out there. It will come back as fast as that computer replies, but it does have an internal hard-coded timeout for 2,000 milliseconds, so 2 seconds. If it doesn't respond in that time, it's going to be marked as offline. But the point there is make sure your interval is set to an appropriate time. There's a couple of things. And then as Lex mentioned, that SSD or just a fast drive. And then if you're saying, hey, I don't have a lot of computers, none of this really applies to me, I have my cleanup set appropriately, let us know. There's probably some things that we can do. Let our support know. We can probably help you out. I saw Adam working yesterday on some load issues with inventory, just try to speed them up. So there's a lot of stuff going on under the hood. We want to make it fast for you.
El Duderinos.
Yeah.
Is it possible to generate
Dude abides.
to generate a basic report in inventory that lists all currently deployed packages and the percentage of machines with the latest version of that application installed? Or are there a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous that would require this to be an SQL report? Thanks, Steve C.
Two
Yes.
Big Lebowski references in one question. Steve, you and I need to go out for a couple of White Russians, brother. All right, but you did answer the question. Some new information has come to light. Yes, you will need to do that with an SQL report. Actually, that's a good point. And those of us here, I would like to talk offline because there's some summary aggregate information that we can throw into the basic report. Yeah, that is going to be a SQL report. If you're really running up against the wall, reach out to us, and one of us might be able to help you out with that. But that's going to
There are
like
a
you
lot
said,
of ins, a lot of outs.
a lot of what have yous. Yeah, we're getting close to let's throw. If there's some more questions out there, let's keep going.
Keep going. All right.
Dear Shane and Lex, with Microsoft having released Windows 10 1709 this week, what is the best way to use PDQ to both block the update and deploy the new OS build? Any gotchas to look out for? Thanks in advance, Paul J.
Hey, Paul.
I would recommend if you want to block 1709, Probably look at it from a group policy,
GPO
or
on that.
WSUS if you're using that. If you're not using WSUS and if you're just using us, then obviously don't deploy it.
Yeah.
But if you want to prevent the Windows update from hitting it, probably a group policy. Chris, is there anything that you want to add to that?
To block it, yeah.
Thank you for that in-depth analysis.
I'm sorry, I was distracted with the chat.
This is the equivalent of asking the stoner in high school if he knows where the home ec room is. Yeah.
Talking about Spicoli earlier. We got Chris Spicoli.
Chris Spicoli.
For blocking it, group policy is probably what I would do. For deploying it, don't use deploy.
Yeah, it's
Use something else. We use Fog here. I love Fog, but there's a lot of good tools out there for that job.
and the reason, deploying an entire image like that with the reboots and everything that's involved. I mean, deploy can start it, but again, we lose control of reboots and that, and so it's, did it finish? Did it not finish? Did it throw errors? Once we lose control of it with the reboots that are inherent in it.
Hey,
Yeah.
there's a quick question here I want to call out. Somebody this is not going to come at the expense of another question, but I just saw a question. Shane, any tips for those attempting a long beard? Number one,
We weren't going to put that up.
it's just number one, patience if you have the genetics. I could take tips all day long for growing a voluptuous hair. It's just not in the genetic deck that I was dealt. So I've seen people that just have some scrag, and it's been 3 years, and
I can't grow a beard.
But
to
if
save
you
my
do,
life.
if it's just that point where you're just itching and stuff, and you think you can grow, it's just going to have to weather that storm. I never really went through that, but then again, I've been dead for 3 years, so.
Lucky you. But
Some
you've been growing the beard
sensations
for
around.
4, so.
I've had this beard.
you
I've had this
for-
beard now for
About 5, 6?
We're working on 6 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Goodness.
I remember the handlebar days, man. Or not the handlebar, but the
Fu Manchu.
Fu Manchu days.
yeah.
I remember those days, man.
Dear Shane and Lex, can you adjust what triggers a system to be part of the Reboot Required collection? We have something that constantly puts itself in the pending file rename operations, so the system always shows as needing a reboot. Thanks, Gene C.
Thank you for posting this question. Do you want to say something, Chris?
No, but I know what you're going to say, and okay.
Once again, the stoner asking where.
Boo.
Okay, so number one, that is hard coded in our program. So please, Gene, you have a homework assignment. If you can send us that pending file rename operations, the string that's in there. We've had customers do this before. There's one printer driver that did this, particularly a couple years ago, and what we have to do is exclude that. But if you could send that to us and say this one is constant throughout all of my machines, we can throw that in so the next build it would remove that from the equation. That's really what we're asking. You're going to have to help us out. Meet us halfway there, brother.
Last one?
Our final question of the day. I am using PDQ Deploy to deploy SolidWorks to multiple machines. The paths are large, and PDQ throws an error saying the file paths are too long when I use file copy. If I run CMD and use robocopy, it works fine as robocopy supports long file paths. Is there a way to get this to work with file copy, and will there be a support for longer file paths if we deploy to Windows 7 and up? Thanks, Eric B.
What's interesting is our file copy really is just a wrapper for robocopy.
Yeah.
Now, if you're using robocopy independent and you're saying, "Hey, this works," what is your path? Because we do have in our file copy operations, you're going into the C Windows admin arsenal, PDQ deploy runner. We add quite a few characters there. So. If you can on SolidWorks, if there's any way for you on the targets, if your repository or if the source directory has a lot of characters in the path, maybe try to shorten that down somewhat as much as possible. But the file copy is just a wrapper for robocopy. So if robocopy works but file copy doesn't, chances are it's just the extra characters for our internal paths. And I would just make some steps to try to lower that on the source if you can, or do a copy down to a different directory on your target.
Run a command to move it.
That's what going to have to try to strip some of those out. But once again, we are literally just wrapping around. We don't do a native one. We just wrap around robocopy. I should say this, it's no longer an issue since XP is still no longer supported. The only time we didn't wrap around robocopy was on XP targets, because you couldn't count on robocopy existing there, even though it was supposed to. There were some builds that didn't include it. But other than that, if you're still running into problems, please let us know. Thank you for watching PDQ A, everybody.
Catch you guys all later.
Yeah, we'll talk to you.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Ian S. and James M., winners of PDQ Swag. Also, Randy W., winner of our PDQ Floppy Coaster. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.